The night in Greenbrier County was thick and heavy, as though the darkness itself had substance. Mary Jane Heaster lay restless in her bed, eyes wide and staring into the suffocating blackness. The farmhouse creaked in the cold, and the wind whispered through the cracks in the wood, carrying with it an unnatural chill. Suddenly, a silence descended so absolute that Mary Jane felt it press against her chest. The faint ticking of the old clock by her bed faltered, and the cold sharpened into something sentient. She sat up, pulse quickening, her breath coming in short, shallow gasps. The room shifted around her as if the air itself shivered with anticipation. From the corner of the room, where shadow bled into shadow, a pale glow began to take form. It coalesced, gathering strength, until the outline of a figure emerged, a figure that Mary Jane recognized with a jolt of icy dread. Zona stood there, eyes vacant and hollow, skin drained of color, with her neck bent at an unnatural angle. "Mother!" Zona's voice wheezed, broken and hollow, echoing as if coming from deep within the earth. Mary Jane's fingers clawed at the blanket, unable to look away. The apparition's mouth moved, slow and deliberate, as it spoke words that curdled the blood in her veins. "He did this," Zona whispered, each syllable more haunting than the last, the sound with a soft, otherworldly echo. Her head lolled to the side, a grotesque reminder of what had been taken. The air grew colder. Mary Jane's teeth chattered, whether from the chill or the rising terror, she could not tell. Then, all of a sudden, the glow receded, taking the figure of Zona with it, leaving behind a deep silence. She fell back onto her bed, chest heaving, eyes searching the darkness that once more claimed her room. She lay motionless, paralyzed between disbelief and the visceral certainty that everything had just changed. The clock resumed its ticking, and Mary Jane slowly drifted off into a long, deep sleep. The morning mist clung stubbornly to the Appalachian hills as a pale sun struggled to break through the dense clouds over Greenbrier County. It was the kind of day that seemed to hold its breath, laden with secrets yet to be revealed. This quiet corner of the world had always been steeped in tales of superstition and whispers, but in 1897 it became the unlikely stage for an event that would blur the line between folklore and justice. The story of the Greenbrier Ghost began with the sudden and tragic death of a young woman named Zona Heaster Shue. To most, the loss was a sorrowful chapter in a place familiar with hardship, but beneath the surface, an undercurrent of unease stirred. As mourners passed through the humble room where Zona lay in state, a presence unseen seemed to linger, watching, waiting. Soon, the quiet suspicions of a grieving mother would ignite a chain of events that challenged the very fabric of the courtroom and defied the boundaries of the living and the dead. The Appalachian Hills of Greenbrier County are located in West Virginia. They seem to hold secrets that whisper through the forests and linger in the mist. In 1897, these quiet lands would become the unlikely stage for a case that defied logic and inspired both awe and skepticism for generations. The story of the Greenbrier Ghost begins with the death of a young woman, Zona Heaster Shue, and the unrelenting determination of her mother, Mary Jane Heaster, who would not let her daughter's voice be silenced, even in death. In January 1897, Zona was found lifeless at the bottom of a staircase in her modest Greenbrier County home. Her husband, Erasmus Edward Shue, was visibly distressed as neighbors arrived. The town doctor, Dr. George Knapp, was summoned and performed a hasty examination. He attributed her death to an everlasting faint, a vague term that was quickly accepted by most. Zona's mother, Mary Jane Heaster, however, was unconvinced. Her suspicion was born of Edward's demeanor, which was erratic and unsettling. Mary Jane prayed fervently for clarity, and over the course of 4 nights, she claimed her daughter's ghost visited her. Zona's apparition spoke of violence, revealing that Edward had attacked her in a fit of rage, breaking her neck. This spectral testimony was enough to persuade Mary Jane to approach the local prosecutor, John Preston. Skeptical at first, Preston decided to reopen the case and ordered the exhumation of Zona's body. When the autopsy was performed, it confirmed what Mary Jane's vision had revealed. Zona's neck was broken, with clear evidence of strangulation. Edward Shue was promptly arrested and charged with murder. In court, the testimony was shocking. Mary Jane Heaster recounted the ghostly visitations that led her to seek justice for her daughter. The defense attempted to dismiss the claims as the wild imaginings of a grieving mother. However, the medical evidence was irrefutable. Combined with the stories circulating in Greenbrier County about Edward's troubled past, including his history of violence and previous marriages, public opinion shifted against him. The jury found Edward Shue guilty, and he was sentenced to life in prison. He died in 1900, having never admitted to the crime. Zona's ghost never appeared again, but the trial made history as the only known case where the testimony of a ghost led to a conviction. This case remains a unique blend of folklore, legal history, and unexplained mystery. Historians like Katie Letcher-Lyle, author of The Man Who Wanted 7 Wives, highlight its significance in showing how deeply intertwined belief and justice could be in the late 19th century. Skeptics argue that Mary Jane's visions were a product of grief and a keen intuition rather than a supernatural encounter. Yet, others maintain that the timing and accuracy of her visions are difficult to dismiss. The Greenbrier Ghost story is a reminder that in certain corners of the world, folklore and reality can intertwine, creating a legacy that challenges our understanding of truth. The story, though extraordinary, was firmly rooted in the traditions and beliefs of the time. The late 19th century was a period marked by hardship and limited scientific understanding, especially in rural areas like Greenbrier County. Superstition and folklore thrived in these communities, blending seamlessly with everyday life. When Zona's death and her mother's otherworldly claims came to light, it resonated with a populace familiar with ghost stories. Skeptics at the time, as well as modern historians, have offered alternative explanations. Some suggest that Mary Jane, knowing her daughter well and harboring doubts about Edward Shue's character, might have pieced together the truth based on subtle details and behaviors she observed before and after the funeral. In the grief-stricken haze of loss, these insights could have manifested as vivid dreams or hallucinations that she interpreted as ghostly visitations. The notion of Zona's ghost bringing forth evidence that was later validated by the autopsy adds a compelling layer to the story. It is this detail that prevents the case from being entirely dismissed as legend. The fact that the medical findings supported Mary Jane's spectral testimony still captivates believers and confounds rational minds. It's one thing to hear stories of apparitions, wrote Katie Letcher-Lyle, but it's quite another when those stories align with hard evidence. Some believe that in moments of intense emotion, such as during violent deaths or unresolved situations, spirits can reach out to the living to reveal truths or seek justice. This theory aligns with stories of ghostly testimonies, such as in this case. Skeptics argue that post-mortem communication is the product of grief and a heightened emotional state. Hallucinations, especially in cases of extreme loss, can feel real enough to convince those experiencing them. Neurological responses during intense trauma could lead individuals to believe they are receiving messages from beyond. But in some cases, the details relayed by supposed spectral visitations have been corroborated by physical evidence discovered afterward. For instance, Mary Jane Heaster's account of her daughter's ghost described details that were later proven by an autopsy. This level of accuracy in the absence of medical knowledge at the time raises questions that simple grief-induced hallucinations cannot fully explain. A more eerie thesis is that certain traumatic events can imprint themselves onto the environment, like a recording, replaying in specific conditions, or for those sensitive enough to perceive them. This residual energy theory is often cited in places where ghostly apparitions or sounds are reported. They are often said to occur at the same time and place repeatedly. Critics suggest that residual hauntings are nothing more than psychological phenomena influenced by suggestion and environmental factors. The mind is powerful and can create sensory experiences that mimic hauntings, especially in atmospheres already associated with fear or unease. Yet, in some locations, such as the Gettysburg battlefield, multiple unrelated witnesses have reported seeing ghostly soldiers marching in formation, dressed in accurate Civil War uniforms, down to details that only a historian would know. These experiences often occur without any prior knowledge or expectations from the observers, challenging the idea that suggestion alone can account for them. The theory of time slips suggests that under certain mysterious conditions, individuals can momentarily experience another time period. These slips can include witnessing scenes from the past or future as if they were occurring in the present. In these sightings, people claim to see figures from a different era behaving as if they are unaware of the modern world. The cynical explanation attributes time slips to false memories or heightened states of imagination. These states are often induced by stress, fatigue, or unfamiliar environments. In some cases, these experiences are rationalized as hallucinations triggered by things like lack of sleep. Another proposed theory relates to environmental factors, such as magnetic fields influencing brain function. Although time slip experiences reported by multiple witnesses make this harder to dismiss. For example, in 1901, two women, Anne Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, claimed to have stepped back in time during a visit to the Palace of Versailles. They described people, clothing, and structures from the late 18th century that were not part of any existing historical records. These details were then later confirmed through archival research. Their shared experience seems to defy conventional explanation. The Greenbrier Ghost story still sparks discussions among those who study the intersection of folklore. Experts, including folklorists like Dennis Dietz, often emphasize that tales like Zona's were not isolated in 19th century Appalachian society. The region's cultural fabric was woven with stories of apparitions and ghostly visitations that served as warnings or guides. To the people of Greenbrier County, the supernatural was not something to be scoffed at. It was a part of life, an extension of their understanding of justice and morality. Critics of the case have often pointed to Mary Jane's strong character and her intuition as explanations for her certainty. It's plausible that, knowing Edward Shue's temperament and history, she pieced together what others had overlooked. One folklorist noted, "Mary Jane's story isn't just about a haunting, it's about a mother who was willing to confront societal norms and challenge the limitations of her time." Shue began his life sentenced in the Moundsville Penitentiary, where he died just 3 years later. He maintained his innocence until the end, but his fate had been sealed not just by evidence, but by the will of a mother who believed in what she could not see. Today, the tale of the Greenbrier Ghost is recounted as a unique piece of American folklore. It raises questions about belief, justice, and the power of stories passed down through generations. Skeptics may argue about Mary Jane's motives or the likelihood of spectral appearances, but for the residents of Greenbrier County at the time, Zona's ghost represented the possibility that sometimes the dead have more to say. This story endures as more than just a tale of spectral vengeance. It's a testament to how deeply intertwined folklore and history can become. In Greenbrier County, the memory of Zona Hista Shue and her mother's quest for justice are preserved not just in archives, but in the oral traditions passed down through generations. The historical marker near Sam Black Church stands as a physical reminder of the case, drawing visitors who are fascinated by the only known instance where a ghost's testimony played a critical role in convicting a murderer. There are, of course, those who remain staunchly skeptical. Modern historians and psychologists suggest that Mary Jane's experiences might have been rooted in grief. The theory goes that, having known of Edward Shue's abusive nature and suspecting foul play, her subconscious may have constructed visions that felt very real. These visions, driven by maternal intuition and emotional turmoil, spurred her to act where others had stayed silent. Yet, even with plausible psychological explanations, there are elements that remain unexplained. The accuracy of the details Mary Jane recounted and their verification during the autopsy seem to many as beyond coincidence. Dennis Dietz, who wrote extensively on the folklore of the Appalachians, once remarked that stories of the Greenbrier Ghost challenge us to reconsider where we draw the line between coincidence and something more. Whether or not Zona's ghost truly appeared, the impact of Mary Jane's conviction and the resultant search for justice cannot be denied. Zona's story continues to inspire writers, researchers, and visitors to Greenbrier County, drawn by the mystery that refuses to be forgotten. The case serves as a testament to how deeply personal convictions can influence events and how folklore can weave itself into the fabric of a community's shared history. The Greenbrier Ghost's tale is, at its heart, one of justice sought by a mother who believed that even in death, her daughter's voice could not be stilled. The Greenbrier Ghost case stands as a powerful reminder of how the supernatural can intersect with reality. This story has all the makings of folklore, spectral visions, murder, and justice from beyond the grave. It remains a genuine part of West Virginia's legal and cultural history. This tale highlights how communities, especially in the late 19th century, navigated the complex relationship between superstition, evidence, faith, and fact, reminding us that some secrets are never truly laid to rest.